Welcome to the South Metro Scoop podcast. Today I am joined by Josh from Downtown Bicycles, the new shop over in Lakeville. Josh, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and just tell us about you?
Yeah, like Brady said, my name's Josh. I work at Downtown Bicycles in Lakeville. My dad is the founder and owner of that business. We started in Northfield about 16 years ago and just opened up our second location here in Lakeville in July.
How did you kind of guys decide to come up here to Lakeville?
Yeah, so when my dad first started the business in 2009, he didn't really have this grand vision of multiple locations in the future. It was just kind of a way for him to turn an interest of his and unmet need in that community. He saw a way to fill that. So he started as a triathlon business and then eventually transitioned to just being a bicycle shop. But once we kind of made that move to bikes only, we definitely started looking more at the markets that were close to Northfield, and Lakeville was definitely one that popped up. It was a growing community. We had a fair amount of customers from there. It's kind of that bridge between the Northfield, Faribault area and the true metro area. And so that was a place we always thought could be a really good location for another bike shop. It just was extremely difficult to get any traction finding retail space because the majority of the retail space in the Lakeville area, which Brady knows well, is a lot of it is owned by larger corporations, grocery stores, big box versus kind of your mom and pop style of business. And so
Right.
when we saw there was some retail space and a new building going up that had room for tenants, we kind of jumped at that and started a conversation and now we're here.
Yeah, I do like that new building that went up there. And I've been living in Lakeville for the past 10 years. And anytime that you had to, if something was wrong with your bike, you either had to watch a YouTube video how to fix it, or
Yeah.
you had to put it on the back of your car, or somehow finagle it into your back seat and drive up to Burnsville 30 minutes or 45 minutes away to a bike shop to get it fixed. But definitely glad to have you guys around here.
Yeah, we've been really excited to see the community receive it well, and yeah, we've had a lot of people say the same thing. They're like, "Yeah, I don't mind going. Like, I'm used to going up to Burnsville or Bloomington to do stuff, but when you have the bike involved, it becomes more complicated."
Yeah, and it's nice to just take a nice bike ride around Lakeville too instead of having to take it somewhere else.
Totally. Yeah.
And I know well, being the son of someone who owns a business, you kind of feel a little bit obligated to kind of go into the family business. And did you feel that kind of pressure having to do it here with this new Lakeville location since you're pretty much always at this one, right?
Yeah, I work a day or two in Northfield just to try and be consistent and be involved in both facets of the business. I think one of our big priorities when we talked about opening a second location was knowing how we were going to have to split our existing personnel along with hiring new staff. And we didn't want there to be this disconnect that was created by that. So I like to spend at least a day a week down there. There's a fair amount of stuff I can help with just on the administrative computer side with orders, that kind of thing. But it's also the shop that I grew up working at, so it's fun to be back kind of at at the origin. We have a lot of really long time customers in Northfield, so it's fun because you'll pretty much always see a familiar face working down there.
Oh.
But as far as obligation, um, I've never felt totally obligated beyond high school. My dad made it very clear and has made clear to all of his children that if we want to be involved in the shop, there's obviously always a position for us to talk about. Um, but beyond that, I went to school for something completely different. I didn't study business. I didn't do anything like that. I thought I was going to be a teacher, and ended up not pursuing that post college. And I was working actually at a bike shop in Illinois, which is where I went to school, managing a shop to a similar size of the one in Lakeville. And started a conversation with my dad after working at that shop for about 18 months. And he described that him and my mom were looking at properties in Lakeville and asked if I would be interested in coming back. And I said, absolutely. And I don't think I would have considered that offer from someone that wasn't my family because it just would have felt like another offer. But it's special when it's your dad and when you kind of have seen the business from the very beginning and get to see where it is now.
Could you tell us a little bit about what you specifically offer there? I know you guys have a bunch of different types of bikes
Yeah.
and you do the repair and service.
Yep. Yeah, so on the sales side, we sell two brands primarily of bicycle. Trek, which is very well known. They're kind of the dominant face, especially in the Midwest, but definitely nationally, one of the most well-known brands. They're headquartered in Wisconsin. They have a lot of history in the public eye. They were the team that Lance Armstrong rode for many, many years, and obviously his reputation has soured. And that's neither here nor there. But the other brand we sell is Cannondale. They're based out on the East Coast, and they're a little bit of a smaller brand themselves. They're owned by a pretty large holding company that owns a bunch of different brands in the bike industry. But they're a really cool brand. They definitely are known for being kind of experimental. They're the first brand that started using aluminum in their bike manufacturing, and now every brand makes pretty much all their bikes out of aluminum. So they're a cool brand to have in house too, just kind of to represent the history of cycling. And then they do a lot of cool stuff currently. Um, as far as accessories and stuff go, there's so much out there. We offer some stuff through some other distributors that have access to hundreds of brands. So we have offerings of pretty much everything you need in the store, and then access to 100 times that just with the click of a button and an order, and we'll have it here in a couple days or a week.
Mhm.
On the service side, we that's kind of where we pride ourselves. That's definitely what we have kind of made ourselves known for in Northfield is a very personable service department, a service department where the guy that's working on your bike isn't scary. He wants to talk to you. He's not going to be mad when you look at him. Um, and we'll service anything. I think the big thing we've seen in Lakeville is how we navigate working on these e-bikes from the internet, which
Yeah.
are like a huge, huge thing right now. And I know it's big because most things in the bike industry, we're like, wow, this is a big deal. And then if you talk to anyone who doesn't know anything about bikes, they're like, I've never heard about that. But the fact that if you go on Facebook or watch any news broadcasts, e-bikes are being discussed on a national scale.
Right.
And so that's kind of been the one thing we've had to figure out. How do we work on these bikes that we can't get parts for and that aren't necessarily certified or safe, and the batteries could start on fire or melt. And so it's trying to navigate that stuff. But we'll
Mhm.
work on anything. And I like to think that we do a really good job of service. That's probably the most consistent area of our shop that we've had feedback on since we opened here in Lakeville is people are like, wow, it's very personable. I feel like I'm getting good value. My bike rides better than it ever has before. And those are the kinds of things we want people to say and feel when they leave after we work on their bike.
Hey, before we continue, if you're enjoying this podcast, we really appreciate your support. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, just go down and leave us a 5-star rating or write a quick review. It only takes a few seconds, but it makes a huge difference in helping new listeners discover the show. Thanks so much for your support. Now back to the show. Yeah, that's great to hear. And what would you say if someone had something wrong with their bike? What do you kind of walk them through if they come into the shop like, "Hey, this thing's wrong." What could they
Yeah.
expect?
So I think the big thing is just trying to educate because I think issues on a bike because a lot of people are not America is not a bike oriented culture. If we were in Europe, we'd have a very different conversation because
Yeah.
people have more knowledge about bikes over there just in general. But in the States, if you just get a flat, a lot of people just kind of throw their hands up and they're like, I don't know what to do. My bike doesn't work. And so a lot of times when people come in and they're maybe frustrated or they're worried that their bike might be totally trashed, it rarely is ever that far gone. And often the repairs are a lot more reasonable than they might expect. And if it's something small, we try to do it on the spot because I don't want a customer to have to leave their bike for a week for a flat tire if that's all that's wrong with it, which is we fix flat tires every day. When I can fix it in 10 minutes. Let's do it. Let's do it now. Let's do it right. Let's have the customer watch so they know that we're actually doing what we're saying we're going to do, and we're going to send them on their way so they can go for their bike ride. From a more comprehensive repair standpoint, we try to keep the customer in the store while we do the service intake so that we can have a conversation with them before they leave about what we want to do, and why we want to do it. So that allows us to give a pretty comprehensive overview. Hey, your derailleur hanger is bent. Hey, you should replace your chain. You should put new tires on. We should probably replace your brake cables. Those kinds of things. Give them a price, a breakdown, and then, hey, this is how long it's going to take for us to get it done. Because I think that's the other thing that people don't often expect is they kind of think they're going to leave it and then they're going to have to kind of cross their fingers that when they come pick it up, I don't tell them it's a $400 bill. I want to
Yeah.
be transparent. I want people to know what they're getting, and yeah, want there to be open communication. And again, to educate. I don't want people to feel like when they come in that they're being treated by the staff here like they don't know or like they're an idiot. And I think a lot of people have those kinds of experiences in kind of the specialty retail industries. And so that's never how I want people to feel.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that approach about, educating them while they're still in the shop, just so they
Yeah.
don't come back, like you said, to that $400 bill and they're like, "What? What? How much
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
bike? What?" Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just definitely something that would be important to me and, anyone else in the South Metro here.
Absolutely.
And off air, we kind of talked about it a tiny bit, but you got some events coming up. Could you kind of talk about those a little bit?
Yeah, totally. So we're gonna do a maintenance clinic in November on the 20th, which is something that we've had a lot of requests for. A flat tire clinic is something that we've done before in the past, and an event that I did a handful of times in Illinois. But the maintenance clinic is just going to give us a chance to give those who are interested in doing some of the more basic stuff that requires minimal tools and minimal practice to give them the skills they need so that they can do that kind of stuff at home. So we're going to talk about how to fix a flat tire. What are the parts of a wheel that go into fixing a flat, because a lot of people don't even know that there's an inner tube inside your tire. They just think it's like a car tire and there's just a tire in there and there's
Hmm.
nothing else. So it's that aspect we're going to talk about. How do you clean your bike? Because that's one of those things that I think people don't think is important, but you would be shocked by how much better your bike will run and how much money you will save long term if you like to ride your bike if you just clean it consistently. So, how do you clean your bike? What do you use to clean your bike? Hey, how do I lubricate my chain? Those kinds of things, to just give people a better understanding of how they can reduce their costs over time by just doing a couple small things at home. So we'll do that. We've tried to be involved with the Lakeville mountain bike team because they have a really active scene between the high schools. So we hosted them for a free clinic earlier in the season, and we did a lot of the same stuff we talked about. How do you clean your bike, especially in a mountain biking team perspective? You're going to be riding when the conditions are wet, or when they're super dry and everything sticks to your bike. So, how do we clean our bike? How do we lubricate it? How do we make sure our bike is okay? What do we look for if we crash? Because that's probably going to happen if you're a mountain biker.
Yeah.
We're going to host them in early November for a team only event where we're going to do kind of a little celebration for the team. So we'll raffle off some prizes to the athletes and the coaches. We'll recognize the team for their season and give the coaches a thank you as well. And then in the spring, we're doing a couple e-bike focused events. So those will be in February and March. We're going to do one that's more of kind of a seminar for people who are interested in purchasing an e-bike. That event we've done in Northfield a few times and is done really well for us. We get a lot of attendance from kind of the retirement age crowd who are kind of looking to get an e-bike to kind of continue that lifestyle. And then we'll do an event later in the spring and March that's more oriented towards safety and etiquette. And that one's going to be marketed more towards families, especially who have children who have an e bike. We're just going to get into, again, very much that education feel because most people are not aware of the different regulations that exist around the e-bikes. They're becoming more and more popular.
Mhm.
The Again, you have to go on Facebook happenings very, very briefly to see someone complaining about almost getting into an accident with a kid on an e-bike. And we just want to be a resource to help parents understand what they can look for, to help the people who are riding these e-bikes understand how to ride them in a way that's safe and polite and courteous to other people. And so that's another event we're going to be doing. That's on the calendar. 2026 overall is going to be a really big year for the Lakeville store. We opened a lot later than we had anticipated and wanted. We were hoping to be open in March. And then when it was clear we we're going to open in March, we were hoping to be open in May. And then when
Mhm.
we weren't going to be open in May, we were like, okay, maybe June. And then July 18th was actually day one. Um, so we're going to do a couple big things in the first few months of 2026. We'll do a very significant grand opening event to kind of really announce to the community we're here. We want to help. We want to serve you. We want to provide you with great products and great service. And so that'll be something that we'll be really focusing a lot of our energy on kind of past the holidays into the start of the biking season in 2026.
Great. Yeah, and we'll obviously include the sign up links for the clinics and seminars in the show notes here so
Yeah.
people can just go and click on that and sign up and learn some more about it too. And you touched on this a little bit with the cleaning, but what would you say is the number one mistake someone who just bought a bike, whether it's an e-bike or, a mountain bike or something like that for the first time, they don't know this one mistake that generally always happens. You either see them come back or they call and be
Yeah.
like, "Hey, how do I do this or this?"
I think, I mean, cleaning is one of those things, but I think the biggest thing has to be just putting air in your tires. Um, a lot of the people who have the financial flexibility to purchase a new bike nowadays are adults, and they're the bikes they grew up riding had tubes that could hold air for months. And the modern bike inner tube holds air for days to weeks. And so I'll have a lot of people who they don't put air in their tires and the bike sits for a couple weeks after they buy it, or they bought it, they rode it for a month, and then it had to sit 'cause they went on vacation or whatever. They come back and they go ride it and they get a flat because your most common cause of a flat tire is not enough air pressure. The tube folds on itself inside the tire and it goes flat. And so that's one thing I always tell people before they go out the door: put air in your tires every week, and you will probably never have to see me for a flat tire unless you hit glass or whatever. But that actually is not as often why you see flat tires needing to be fixed. It's most often because there's just not enough air pressure in the tire in the first place.
Yeah, I definitely notice that too, because sometimes it's usually once a month. I'm like, dang, I haven't ridden my bike in a
Yeah.
minute. Maybe I should take it down from the garage and go out for a ride,
Yeah.
but oh, no, it's flat. Nah, I can't really do that.
Yeah.
Then I got to spend time
Exactly.
pumping it back up.
Yeah.
And could you just quickly just tell us the website and the socials too? Just people can reach out if they want and see what you guys are posting and then any other
Yeah.
happenings that might be
So
happening.
yeah, we have a Facebook. If you just look up Downtown Bicycles, we'll pop right up. We're pretty active on there. We have an Instagram, which is not as active as Facebook. We do a lot of cross posting, but there are some things I leave just on Facebook, and Instagram is more of like a fun platform for us. That's kind of the engagement we get there, whereas Facebook is much more of like the informational aspect as well. And then our website is just downtownbicyclesllc.com. But again, if you just type downtown bicycles in a search engine, we'll pop right up usually. Then our website's usually the, first or second result. Um, yeah, and that has some good info. It's a little bit more bare bones just because we haven't really gotten into like the e-commerce or whatever aspect of kind of the world. And that's not really our model. We're again really trying to dig more into this kind of family focused, the mom and pop feel. And we don't want to get to this point where we start to feel more corporate and more like everyone else. We want to be unique in that sense. So the website has some great information about stuff that we have in stock where you can see that. You can also see hours. You can apply for a job, that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Josh, for coming on this episode. And
Problem.
make sure to check out Downtown Bicycles in Lakeville. There's filling a real need here. Stop by for bikes, service, or just chat about riding with one of the associates working. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks, Brady.